welcome to Noble Character Crafts. My name is Amy and I am coming to you from eastern Nebraska, where I live with my husband and our 5 children. Today is Friday, February 26th, 2021. This is a channel all about my crafty life, and today I have knitting to share with you. Thank you so much for joining me today. A huge welcome to any new or returning viewers. I really appreciate you joining me today, and I hope that you enjoy this episode. You can find me online on Instagram and Etsy at Noble Character Crafts, and you can get in contact with me through my email at noblecharactercrafts@yahoo.com. You can find links to the places that you can find me in the description box below, as well as show notes for this episode. I am hosting a year-long make-along on Instagram called the Make 9 2021 Mal, and that is for you to join in on the Make 9 Challenge, where you choose 9 projects that you would like to make throughout the year of 2021 and post a grid of those projects to Instagram along with the hashtag Make 9 2021 Mal. And then anytime that you post a progress picture or a finished object picture of one of your projects, you will be entered to win a prize that I draw periodically throughout the year. Any crafts are allowed for this make-along, and you are also allowed to include any works in progress that you haven't, maybe you've had languishing for a long time, anything that maybe has carried over from years past or that you've already started, but if you're new to the make-along, don't hesitate to include your works in progress. That is certainly allowed and encouraged. And you are also not required to finish anything from your board. This is just a participatory make-along, so it's just trying to encourage everyone to focus on 9 projects that they would like to make this year, but it's not a requirement to finish anything. Of course, we all change our minds and change our focus as the year progresses, and that's perfectly fine. I don't want this to be make along that impresses any pressure on you at all, but just a fun make along that we can. It's just so fun to look at the other projects that people are hoping to make and see the progress that they're making throughout the year. So thank you so much to everyone who has already participated this year. It's never too late to join in. You can join in at any time throughout the year. So please continue to join in if you haven't yet. And as I've said before, if you have any trouble making a grid, please don't hesitate to contact me. I would be more than happy to help you make a grid so that you can participate in this make-along as well. I decided to draw another prize this episode since I was so generously donated so many prizes for this make-along. And I had intended to give away this beautiful sock set that Angela from Willow Tree Yarn had sent over to me. But the winner of this make-along giveaway is Angela. So when her name popped up as the random winner for this make-along, of course, I was like, well, I'm not going to be giving her her own yarn. So instead, I chose one of the beautiful skeins that was donated from Joy, one of the podcast viewers. If you tuned in 2 episodes ago, you would have seen all of the gorgeous prizes that she sent my way. And this gorgeous skein is from Lolo Did It. It is the colorway Honeydukes. It is on her Lolo's Favorite base, which is 80% superwash merino wool, 10% cashmere, and 10% nylon. It's a fingering weight 3-ply, 100 grams, 430 yards. And it's just filled with gorgeous, bright colors. So it's perfect for this time of year when I think a lot of us are ready for some bright colors. It's kind of a gloomy time of year. And I'm going to include, this is one of the stitch markers that Joy also sent along. I did not share this particular one in that when I showed off all of the things that Joy had sent my way, she had also sent an extra bag full of extra progress keepers, and I didn't go through them individually on the podcast. But this is a really cute one from Sucre Miniatures, and it is Harry Potter themed. It's Weasley's Wizards, I don't know, something like that. I'll include it in your prize package, Angela, so that you can know the exact name, but it's a green lollipop, so super cute. So I will include that in your prize as well. I already have your address, so no need for you to do anything, Angela. I will try to get this off in the mail to you as soon as possible. And thanks again to everybody who's participated in the make-along so far. I am wearing my first finished object and I'm so excited about it. So this is one of the objects from my personal Make 9 2021 list, and this was one of my works in progress that I carried over from 2020. This was actually on my Make 9 2020 board that I started but didn't finish. I started this shawl, which is the Kimba shawl by Ambah O'Brien, on August 1st of 2020. So it took me a little over 6 months to complete this, but it was in hibernation for several months while I was knitting Christmas gifts primarily. I'm so happy with this finished object. I really love the colors that I chose for it, and I love how it turned out. It's really big, a lot bigger than I thought it would be, but I'm pleasantly surprised with that. I enjoy having large shawls. So here it is. Well, I won't be able to show it completely, but I'll kind of give a side-to-side view of it here. It is just a really nice shape, easy to wear. The 4 colors that I used, the top color is from Adriana, who used to dye yarn with a company called Strings to Stitches. That was her hand-dyed yarn company, and that colorway is called It's Fall, Y'all. Then I used my own hand-dyed yarn here and here in the Sweetness colorway. Both of those are on a 75-25 fingering weight base. And then the other 2 yarns are both from a Homespun house, and they're both on a 100% non-superwash merino wool fingering weight base. This is called Whale Belly, and the last one is called Homestead. I used the recommended needles for the top section, which was a US 5 3.75 millimeter needles, and then I switched up to a US 6 4 millimeter needle once I got to the chevron lace detail to try to give it the same gauge, since the garter stitch section here at the top has a bit of a looser gauge than the rest of the patterning, I guess. And I'm pretty happy with how that turned out. It is worn over the shoulders really nicely, but when I stand up, it goes all the way down to my knees. So it's large, and I'm not a short girl. I'm 5'10", so it's a long shawl, but it's so nice wearing it this way. It's, you know, covers you up really well. And you could easily, you know, kind of have fun draping it around like this or something. But as you saw, it also works really well as a handkerchief style, as I was wearing it at the beginning. This was really a super easy pattern. I mean, I did have to pay attention to where I was in the pattern. It wasn't mindless, and I did put stitch markers in between each of those lace repeats once I got to that section. And also the top section has a bunch of short row shaping in it. But really it wasn't a difficult pattern. It just took me a long time to finish it because I had put it down for so long. So I think I will probably wear it most often this way. I think it's really pretty like that. I love the scalloped edges. I did wet block it and pinned it out, pulling those edges out, and it blocked really nicely, I think. But it did grow so much. I didn't know if it would grow quite so much since this Whale Belly and Homestead are not superwash, but it still grew quite a bit. So, but I'm happy. Like I said, I love large shawls, so I'm super happy with that. So I think this is I'm trying to think of the projects that I finished off of my Make 9 board already. Okay, so I finished the lace shawl with the beading. I did the cowl that ended up being for my daughter, but I did knit the pattern. I did my black socks and this Kimba shawl. I think this is the 4th project from my Make 9 2021 list that is finished. So that's awesome. I'm so glad that I have been focused on that Make 9 2021 board, but I'm not really sure if I will, I'm going to share at the end of the podcast the 3 projects that I have planned to cast on next, and none of them are on any of my Make 9 boards. I have 2 Make 9 boards. One is for my personal projects and one is for gift knits. And anyway, the 3 projects I'm planning on casting on next are not on those boards, but I really want to cast them on, so I'm going to. Okay, my next finished object is a pair of socks for my youngest son. And I think they are so fun and cute. I'm so happy with how they turned out. I knit him a pair of socks in January, and he has worn them so often ever since I knit them. Whenever they're clean, he puts them back on his feet. And so he was, worthy of another pair of socks for sure. He needs more socks anyway. And so he loves red. The last pair of socks I made for him were solid red. And I went through my stash and found this self-striping yarn from Regia. It's Regia 4-ply in the Weiss colorway, which means red, white. And I really love how they turned out. As soon as I had gotten through quite a bit of the leg, I kept thinking of the Cat in the Hat's hat. And I posted that on Instagram and so many people agreed. And then also people thought of Where's Waldo, which is also so fun. I really love how they turned out. Anyway, once I was thinking of the Cat in the Hat, then I thought of the accent blue color that you see in the book. I tried to find our copy of it, but I just looked really quickly on our bookshelf and I couldn't hunt it down. We have several bookshelves and I don't know, who knows, it could be in one of the children's bedrooms too. But anyway, it has kind of a blue color to it. So I thought it'd be really fun so I wouldn't have to mess up this self-striping yarn to include a heel in more of a blue color. And this color is so beautiful. My son actually helped me pick out this color. He really liked that a lot, which I was surprised by because when I made him his solid red socks, I asked him if he wanted a different color for his heels or toes or anything, and he said that he didn't. So I assumed he wouldn't want any other color, but he really wanted this. And then I was assuming that I would just finish the toes with the self-striping yarn, but he asked me specifically to make the toes that color too. So I was like, okay, sure. I think they're so cute like that. Anyway, that yarn is from the Row 1 subscription that I shared with you last episode, but I misspoke and I'm so sorry about that. The yarn that I had said last episode that yarn subscription was from 29 Bridges Yarn Dyer, but it isn't. It's from I lost my spot. It is from Threadhead Knits Company. So my apologies for that. This colorway is called Dinner at Tiffany's, and the color is just so beautiful, and it's got little pops of red in it even, and I just think it's a really fun colorway. So I cast on 48 stitches using US 1 2.25 millimeter needles. I did a 2x2 ribbing and just until that red color ended, which was I think about 14 rows. And then I just knit plain stockinette for the leg. My son asked for a really long leg, so these reach just a little bit below his knees. They go quite up high on his legs. I did a slip stitch heel flap. A lot of times when I use self-striping yarn, I use a contrast color for the heel because it just helps not to disrupt the striping as much. And I thought I would mention how I put in the heel flap so that I don't have to cut the yarn. When I am adding in a contrast heel color, I knit the first row of the heel flap in the main color, and then I add in the contrast color on the second row, which is the first purling row of the heel flap. And that way your yarn is set up to be at the right spot so that when you're ready to, after you pick up your first set of gusset stitches, you are ready to grab that main color again. It's in the right spot, so you don't have to cut your main color. So that's just a tip that it's just what I do so that I don't have to cut the yarn before I start the heel flap. I hope that makes sense. Anyway, I really love how these turned out. I did a rounded toe. I always follow the heel flap and the toe patterns from any of the Crazy Sock Lady Designs sock patterns. Those are basically the patterns that I have learned to knit socks with, and that's what I use for all of my socks unless I'm following someone else's pattern basically. So I love how these turned out. They're so cute on him and he loves them. So I just finished these this morning and I am excited to let him wear them. They're so cute. I'm a little disappointed that he's my youngest and once he grows out of them, nobody else will be able to wear them. But I'll probably just save them until maybe someday I'll have grandchildren and they can wear them. Who knows? We'll see. But they're still so fun. Okay, and my last finished object isn't 100% finished, which I don't really consider a finished object until it's 100% finished, but it's pretty close. So this is the Wyatt sweater that I knit for my oldest son. This is a design by Michelle Wang, and this is a project from my Make 9 2021 gift list. I made several modifications to this pattern. It is knit from the bottom up in the round, but the original pattern has quite a bit of texture throughout the body and the sleeves, and I left that off. I just did plain stockinette. And I knit the largest size, which is a size 10. My son is 12 years old, and I haven't measured my gauge yet. I'll do that, and I'll give a final report on this project next time I record an episode, I think. But I'm assuming that my gauge is quite a bit looser than the original design because it fits him with a lot of positive ease. It fits him really nicely. He's going to be able to wear maybe a button-down shirt underneath it really comfortably, or any kind of a shirt underneath it really comfortably. It doesn't look overly baggy on him. It's just a nice, loose, roomy fit. I think it looks great on him. Anyway, I mentioned last time that I had finished, the last time I recorded, I was right here where this kitty progress keeper is. So I had just joined everything in the round, attaching the sleeves to the body. And it was, at that point, a sweater, so it was not a cardigan yet. My son said that he really wanted it to be opened in the front so he could button it down as a cardigan. So I said, yeah, I can do that, no problem. So I just continued following the pattern. In the pattern, there is a neck opening right here that comes to about right here, and it kind of opens with, I think, 3 buttons up here at the top. So basically it's supposed to kind of look like this, but then this is supposed to be all, you know, connected as a sweater, and then it just has this up, this top part is open with a flap on it. Does that make sense? Anyway, so I took out I kept in those extra stitches that I should have bound off for that little piece, and I just kept that in until I got to the neck shaping. I did include the neck shaping that is included with the pattern. So at that point, I started knitting back and forth, not in the round, because I had bound off a few stitches in the middle. And then I got that all done. All of the body was done. Then I knit the neck ribbing. After that was all done, I sewed 2 lines on my sewing machine using my walking foot, which I have done several times on sweaters. I sewed 2 lines on either side of the spot where I wanted to cut open the cardigan. So it was in between the part where, well, it's on this little section right here. So these were the extra stitches that I had in between where I cut the stitches and where I was going to pick up for the ribbing. I sewed 2 lines on this side and 2 lines on this side just to secure it with just a straight stitch on my sewing machine. And then I cut it open, which is so fun to do. And I picked up the stitches for the ribbing. Now, the first time I picked up the stitches for the ribbing, I had to take it out. I had done this one side without the buttonholes in it. And as you can see right now, it's cinching up a little bit, but I haven't blocked this yet. I just finished it this morning as well. I finished the socks and this sweater this morning, or this cardigan. Anyway, you can kind of see that the ribbing still cinches in a little bit, but when my son tried it on, it doesn't when he's wearing it. So that's great. And I also haven't blocked it. When I do block it, I'm gonna, kind of give that a little bit of a pull, or maybe even pin it out, just so it is even with everything and it doesn't pull in too much. But the first time I did it, I had picked up 2 stitches and then skipped one. So 2 of every 3 stitches I had picked up along the side here, and it was cinching in way too much. It was not good. So I had to rip all of that out because I couldn't really tell until I had bound it off how it was going to lay. I had it on kind of a shorter cable. The needle was a little bit shorter, so it was kind of cinched up anyway, and I figured it would lay flatter once I had it bound off, but it did not. I ripped it all out and ended up going back and picking up 4 to 5 stitches, 4 of every 5 stitches, except for on the sections where it's along the ribbing. So along here, along the bottom ribbing, and along the neck ribbing, I picked up every stitch that I could, because I find that, especially on the bottom of cardigans, I find that this bottom section, I really want that to lay as flat as possible. I don't want it to cinch up, so I want as many stitches on that ribbing section as possible, I guess. For the needles, I used a US 6 4mm for all of the ribbing. And then for the body, I used US 8 5mm needles. The yarn I used is Knit Picks Wool of the Andes worsted weight in the Lava Heather colorway. For the button band, I had to make some modifications to that, of course, because the original pattern just has a real short button band up here. But I followed the instructions very closely to what the pattern calls for. The original pattern calls for a 4-stitch, 1-row buttonhole. The 1-row buttonhole method is such a neat construction of a way to make buttonholes. But in the original pattern, she calls for a 4-stitch buttonhole, which makes a pretty large buttonhole. And the buttons that my son picked out that he wants me to add to this, which I will do after I block it, are pretty small. I have this whole bag. I don't know where I got them from. Who knows? I've had them for a long time. They're just a dark brown wooden button. I think they'll look great on this cardigan. They'll blend in a lot, but I think they'll be great. Anyway, they're quite small, and so I knew I've already made this sweater. This is the 3rd time I've made this sweater. The first time I've ever made it into a cardigan, however. But anyway, I had the other sweaters that I've made to compare how big the buttonholes are, and I knew that these were going to be much smaller than the other buttons I had to use on the other sweaters. So instead of doing a 4-stitch buttonhole, I just did a 2-stitch buttonhole. So I followed the instructions exactly, except that instead of doing 4 stitches, I only did 2 stitches, so I just added an extra stitch before and after each buttonhole placement. Otherwise, I followed the placement for the buttonholes as per the pattern. I think there's only 3 buttonholes for the shorter original neck button band thing. And I have 8 buttonholes for this one. So they're a little bit hard to find, but here is one. But it's just a really neat construction of a buttonhole. There's another one. So yeah, I'm super excited about this cardigan. I am excited to get it blocked and lay it flat and see how it blocks. I'm sure it'll look even nicer once it's blocked. And I'm excited to get those buttons on there, and my son's so excited to wear it. He keeps asking to try it on, and he's so excited about it. So that makes me excited too. It's all 2x2 ribbing. Oh, and I also did tubular bind offs for all of for the neck band and the button bands. I did tubular bind offs per the pattern as well. That's also in the pattern. I did not do the tubular cast on, however, for the bottom ribbing or the sleeve cuffs. I just did a cable cast on. So I think that is everything for this sweater. I want to make sure I haven't forgotten to mention anything. I think that's it. I'm so happy with it. And let's see, what is this for my gift list? I've made my son, one of my sons, I made a blanket for them. I made my other son's red socks. I think this is the third finished object from my gift list. I'm pretty sure, but I'm not 100% sure. I think I'm forgetting something, but maybe not. Anyway, so excited about this sweater or cardigan. Oh, the yarn I didn't mention is 100% non-superwash Peruvian Highland wool, so it should last for a long time. So this is a sweater that, or a cardigan that we will have in our family. We can pass it down to all of the kids, and actually it fits me too. So it's a bit of a different fit on me compared to my son, but once my kids outgrow it, if they do, maybe some kids, maybe some will be able to wear it until they're adults. I don't really know. I can wear it though, so that's great. Okay, so those are all of my finished objects. I only have one work in progress to share with you all this time. I do have several scrappy projects that I have been working on, and I might do another episode just including I have 5 scrappy blankets that I've worked on a little bit that I could share, but I think I'll save that for a special episode that's just talking about those. Anyway, my next work in progress, or my only work in progress, is in this beautiful bag from Trisha of Joy in the Stitches. And she and I, well, she's already finished her version that she is gifting to somebody, so she hasn't posted on Instagram, I don't believe. But this is the Bean Cardigan by Melissa LaBarre, and Trisha and I both put these on our Make 9 boards. So I had asked her if she would like to knit this along with me, and she agreed. She did make a smaller version than I am making, so, but anyway, it's not, obviously, it's not a race, but anyway. I am knitting this sweater for my daughter, who is 10 years old, and I am making the largest size, which is for a 12-year-old. And it's turning out so well. I just bound off the bottom edging this morning, so she was able to try it on. I mean, she's been able to try it on all along because it's knit flat. But, you know, having bound off that body, then I could really see how it fits her, and it fits her so nicely. So it's a pretty simple construction, really. It's knit from the top down, and it has this beautiful yoke design. This is also knit in Knit Picks Wool of the Andes worsted weight. This is just the bare yarn. I added 4 extra inches to the length of this cardigan because I want her to be able to wear this for at least a couple of years. That's my hope anyway. Last time I mentioned this project, and I had said that I was using US 7 4.5 millimeter needles, and that I was really having to concentrate on my purl rows because my purl stitches tend to be a lot looser. And I was doing that, but I was having to knit or purl so tightly, and my hands were starting to hurt from having to do that. And I just found myself really not wanting to pick up this project because it wasn't enjoyable to work on. I really don't mind purling, but having to purl so tightly so that my stitches were matching, because compared to from my knit stitches to my purl stitches, there's such a big difference. It was not enjoyable at all. And I thought to myself, why in the world am I doing this? Why does it matter? As I mentioned before, I know that people sometimes use a second sized needle for their purl stitches. They just put a different sized needle on the needle that you use as you're purling. So the needle that you hold in your right hand while you're purling is a smaller, sized needle so that your stitches are more even. And I thought, why do I care? Because I had said last time that I didn't want to have to change my needle. I just wanted to be able to work on my tension so that it would be even no matter if I was knitting or purling. And then I thought, well, when I'm doing color work, I change my needle size because my tension changes. Why do I care if I have to change my needle for my purl stitches? As long as it's enjoyable. I mean, better to enjoy your knitting and to make it even than to make it painful and unenjoyable, of course. So anyway, I decided to do an extra swatch. And so I started off with, my kids are playing outside and they're noisy. I don't know if you can hear that, but the weather has finally warmed up and everything's melting in a horribly muddy mess, but they're at least outside enjoying the weather, so that's great. Let's see. Okay, so the first 1.5 inches or so here. Maybe I should pull this curtain. Hang on. That's a little better. Okay, the first section here, I used the US 7 4.5 millimeter needles. And I just was knitting and purling comfortably. So I was not trying to knit really tightly. And I knew that my gauge was not going to be very even there. Then I went down to a 6, and you can see I still had areas. So the issue is my purl stitches, maybe you can see on the back side more easily. My purl stitches are looser and that it makes the rows uneven. I don't know if you can really tell or not. But there's these, you can see these stitches are elongated because they're too loose. So that was a 6.4 millimeter. Then I went to a 5, which is 3.75 millimeter. And I was still getting a bit of loose stitches. There you can see some. And finally I went down to a 4, which is a 3.5 millimeter needle. And I was happier with my stitches on that needle. So again, I kept the 7 on my knit stitches and I just changed the needle that I hold in my right hand as I'm purling. So one needle was a 4, 3.5, and one needle was a 7, 4.5. So it was 1 whole millimeter difference from my knit stitches to my purl stitches. But that's what I ended up doing to finish up the body. I should have marked where I started doing that. It still wasn't completely perfect. I still had, like, I know right here, I was already using the 4 millimeter, but I can see there's like, I don't know, 5 or 6 stitches right here that are looser. So it's still not perfect, but it's a handmade garment, so I'm not beating myself up about it. Anyway, it was so much more enjoyable to work on it after I did that, so I'm so happy that I did that. Anyway, the bottom edging is just knit with garter stitch, which I've never done before on a garment that I can recall, and I really think that was kind of a neat way to finish off the edge there. I picked up for the first sleeve this morning and I've just started knitting that. The sleeve construction is very simple. There's no decreases for the sleeves at all, not even once you get to the cuff. I'm not sure if I'm gonna like not having any decreases before you get to the cuff, because then the cuff will be really bell-like, and I'm not sure if that will be practical for my daughter or not, because I don't think she will be able to roll up her sleeves at all, which I don't think that would be so great for her. I think she would get her cuffs pretty dirty if she couldn't roll them up at all. So I'm not really sure what I'll do there. I might decrease a little bit before I get to the cuff. I'm not sure. But right now I am just knitting in the round. And I'm just using the US 7 4.5 millimeter needles now since I am just knitting. But super simple. I'm hoping that these sleeves, they should work up pretty quickly. So yeah, I'm super excited about that. This is another project from my Make 9 2021 gift list, so that's super exciting. I think that's all for that one, and I do want to share with you the next 3 projects that I'm planning on casting on. They're all knit projects. The first one I'm so excited about, and I had originally thought about putting this on my Make 9 2021 list, but I took it off. I mean, I had a few different versions of my Make 9 grid, and I, played around with what I wanted on that board. But anyway, I just keep thinking about this design, and I pulled together some of my DK weight scraps and extra skeins that I've had in my stash for a while that I really want to use. And I'm going to try to kind of piece together this design. So the pattern I am planning to make is called the Vo Vest by Mary Jane Mucklestone. I will insert a picture here so that you can see what it looks like. I just think it's such a classic, really neat looking vest design. I've never knit a vest for myself, but I really want to. When I was in high school, I had a V-neck vest that I wore quite often, and I don't know why in the world I would have ever given it away, but I must have, unless it's at my mom's house. I don't know. I have no idea what happened to it, but I think about it often and I want it back. But anyway, I really am excited to knit up this vest. So I'm going to swatch and see how it comes out. I'm using many different yarns. So several of them are my own hand-dyed yarn. This is all DK weight. The first one is my own hand-dyed yarn in my Night colorway. And so it's just a plain black. And then I'll share all of my own hand-dyed yarns together here. The other colors I'm going to be using are Comfort, Choice Silver, and Scarlet. And then I also have this little bit of Alpaca. This is 100%, oh, these yarns are all on the same base, and they are on a 75% superwash merino wool, 25% nylon DK weight. This is also DK weight. It is 100% alpaca yarn from Rollingwood Alpaca Farm. So it's this wonderful brown color with tweed throughout it. So pretty. And then the two yarns that I am the most excited to use are these two hand spun yarns that I got last year, I think maybe in the summertime. Anyway, I've had them in my stash for long enough that it's driving me crazy that I haven't used them yet. I've never used hand spun yarn before, and I think these are so gorgeous. These are both from Slothy Creations. The purplish colored one is a 100% Rambouillet fiber, and it's called Love Letters. And then the rusty orange one is called Vibes, and it's a superwash merino. So I'm so excited to include these. So the black is going to be the main color for like the ribbing and things. And then I'm just going to play around with how the other colors work into the design. Let's see how I can hold these. It's kind of an odd combination. Whoops. I don't know how it'll work out, but I'm going to swatch with these colors and see how I can play around with the color combination. So I think that's all the colors that I have. We'll see. We'll see what I come up with. So I'm really, really excited to give that pattern a try though. I forgot to mention what I'm wearing, and it's kind of hard to see because it's such a dark yarn, but I am wearing the Centaurea, I think it's Centaurea pattern by Audrey Borrego of Yarn Flakes. I test knit this for her last year, and it's knit in Knit Picks Stroll in the Midnight Heather colorway. This yarn is pilling a little bit. It's not horrible, but it's also not the most durable yarn for a garment. I probably wouldn't use this yarn for a garment again. I don't know if you can see very well how it's pilling, but I don't know. It's just not the most, it's not holding up the best, but I do wear it. I do wear this quite often, but like in the underarms and things, it doesn't look the best. I probably could depill it and look a lot better, but that's what I'm wearing. And I always forget to mention that at the beginning of the episodes, it seems. Okay, that's my first project that I'll be casting on next. Dropped one of the little labels. Okay, The next project is another Wyatt sweater. So my youngest son, who is obsessed with the color red, wants a Wyatt sweater as well. And I happen to have 4 skeins of this Lion Brand Heartland yarn that I've had in my stash for years. Who knows how long? So long. This is in the Redwood colorway. And it is 100% acrylic worsted weight. I'm pretty sure that 4 skeins of this will be enough. Ooh, I have noisy kids outside. And they're running around in their boots. They're shuffling around. Can you hear it? It is 142 grams, 251 yards per skein. I'm pretty sure it's going to be enough. I use this same yarn base for my other son's Wyatt sweater, and I'm pretty sure I used 5 skeins for his, which I made the largest size. This one, I'll have to check my gauge and everything and try to figure out what size I should make for him, but he's only 7 years old, and so he won't need as big of a size. I will probably not be putting the texture into that sweater either. This will be the 4th time that I've made the Wyatt sweater, and I've always left the texture out of the sweater, so it's a easy pattern if I don't do that patterning. You know, the texture is just so easy just doing the stockinette, and I love how it turns out. Anyway, the last project that I'm planning on casting on is another pair of socks for my husband. I knit him a pair of socks for a Christmas/birthday present, and he wears them so much. He wears them kind of as bed socks, basically. He actually wore them to work accidentally one time this week in his work boots. He doesn't normally do that. But he said he still was fine wearing them to work, but I think he really wants to keep them. He doesn't want to wear them out. So he's just been wearing them at night when he sleeps. And he's really enjoyed wearing them. So I want to make him another pair of socks. I used this same yarn for his last socks in a different colorway. So this is Patton's Croix socks. And this colorway is Turquoise Jacquard. So I think that will be really a nice color for him as well. And since those socks turned out to fit him really well, I'm just planning on doing the same stitch count and everything. I haven't decided if I'll do a ribbed pattern or just do plain stockinette for his socks. That I haven't decided yet, but I'm excited to make him another pair of socks, and I'm so excited that he has enjoyed the ones I've already made for him. So yeah, those are my plans for my next my next cast on. So I'm so excited about that. I think that is everything. I feel like I'm forgetting something, but oh, I am forgetting something. I have been sewing more project bags again. I just really want to thank everybody who has purchased my project bags so far. I've said this before, I guess, but I'm just so grateful for the support that you all have shown in enjoying my project bags and purchasing from my Etsy shop. I really appreciate that. My Etsy shop is empty right now, but I am working every day, a little bit at a time, to do another shop update. And this shop update is going to be about twice as big as what I normally do. So it's going to take me maybe a little bit longer to get them all done, but I'm working on them. Last time I showed off some project bags, I mentioned that I was thinking about leaving off the side handle that I usually had been putting on my bags, just because I don't find that side handle is very useful. And all of the feedback that I got was pretty much in agreement with me that side handle was really not necessary. So I have decided to leave that off, but I wanted to replace that side handle with a little extra feature that was maybe more useful, what I think is more useful anyway. So here is one sample. The shop update that I'm working on is going to include quite a few different fabrics. So here is just one example of what's going to be going into the shop update. I don't know when that shop update will be. As I've said before, if you want to know when I do a shop update, please just follow me on Instagram, because I post on there as soon as I update my shop. I guess you can also follow me on Etsy, and then I think you can be notified when I do a shop update in that way too. I'm not exactly sure how that works, but I know you can favorite shops and maybe be notified when my shop is not empty anymore, I think. Anyway, so the bags are just the same as my other bags, except they do not have that side handle, but I've included something extra on the inside. So I've included this little clasp. Well, it's kind of a large clasp. And it's sewn in with this little tab. And then it opens with this little side, hooked like you would have on a necklace kind of thing. And I'm also including 6 closed ring stitch markers. These are my very favorite stitch markers. I use these on almost every project that I do. They're just a super simple ring. I think most of the bags that I'll be doing in this shop update will include the silver, but if the fabric coordinates better with a bronze colored clasp and stitch markers, I also have that option. So either silver or bronze colored clasp and stitch markers. The bronze stitch markers have a bit of texture to them, whereas the silver ones are just solid and smooth in texture. But that will be the new feature that's included, and then all of my bags also have an interior pocket. And they're all drawstring, and they're all the same size. They all have a thicker duck cloth on the bottom. So this one has the gray and yellow, which I think is like the Pantone colors of the year. So I thought that was fitting, and I just think this is a really pretty fabric. And it has the gray polka dot on the inside. So I'm just really enjoying, I haven't put my label on this one yet, so that's the only thing that this one's missing. I'll put my little label on there with my Noble Character Crafts logo on there, and otherwise this bag is completed, but I only have 2 bags completed so far. Otherwise I have several bags that are in various stages of making. So anyway, I just wanted to give you all an update on, my progress with my shop update, and yeah, you can tune. I have no idea when I will have these bags done. I really don't have a good idea because, as I said, I just work on them. I try to work on them for an hour or 2 every day. But I'm, a busy mom. I homeschool our 5 children, and so I just try to fit it in when I can. And as I said, I was trying to think of how many I think I've cut out enough fabric to make over 40 bags. So it's a lot bigger update than what I've done before. So it's going to take me a little bit longer to get them all done. But anyway, you can stay tuned through my Instagram, or maybe I'll have another episode out before I'm done. I'm assuming I'll get them done before my next episode. But again, I have no idea. So anyway, I just want to give you a bit of an update on my shop. So I think that is everything I have to share with you all today. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope that you really enjoyed this episode. If you did, please feel free to give this episode a thumbs up and subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. I would really appreciate that. I hope you all are doing well, and I hope you have a great couple of weeks ahead. Take care. Bye-bye.